Welcome to The Critical Path, Project Management and Leadership in Complex Environments, the podcast where we explore how leadership and project management come together to deliver complex projects when failure simply isn't an option. I'm your host, Isaac Alcaide. Today we are diving into a topic that sits at the foundation of every healthy, innovative and resilient team: psychological safety, which I think it's really the hidden architecture of high performance teams. If you've ever been part of a team where people were afraid to speak up, where mistakes were hidden rather than discussed, or where meetings were dominated by the loudest voices rather than the best ideas, then you've already experienced the absence of psychological safety. And if you've worked in a team where people felt safe enough to disagree, ask questions, challenge the status quo, or openly share concerns, you've experienced its transformative power. Psychological safety is often misunderstood as being soft, gentle, or nice. But in high-pressure project environments, from engineering programs to defense, aerospace, to any domain where risk, pace, and uncertainty collide, psychological safety is not a luxury. It's a performance multiplier. It is the difference between a team that merely executes tasks and a team that thinks, adapts, and prevents failure. When projects operate in complex environments, leaders can't rely only on rules, governance, frameworks, or technical expertise. They rely on humans with all their cognitive biases, fears, motivation, and limitations. In this environment, leaders must create the conditions where the crucial information flows rather than gets stuck, where early warning signs are raised before they become crises, where innovation emerges because people feel brave enough to experiment, critique, and improve. Today's episode explores three core questions. What exactly is psychological safety and what is it not? How does it work in real project environments, especially under complexity and pressure? And how can leaders create and sustain psychological safety consistently, deliberately, and practically? We are also explore a detailed real-world scenario so you can see how psychological safety affects the trajectory of a project, not theoretically, but operationally. So, let's get into it. Psychological safety, the hidden architecture of high-performance teams. Psychological safety, a concept pioneered by the Harvard researcher Amy Edmondson, refers to a shared belief within a team that it is safe to take interpersonal risks. Example of personal risks include asking for help, expressing concerns, sharing new or untested ideas, admitting mistakes, challenging assumptions, or escalating issues upward. In simple terms, psychological safety means people feel safe to speak up without fear of embarrassment, blame, or negative consequences. This is not about comfort, it's about clarity and trust. A psychological safe environment allows difficult truths to surface early. This matters enormously in complex environments where information is incomplete, problems are ambiguous, requirements evolve, and risks interact in unpredictable ways. Psychological safety is not avoiding conflict, protecting people from discomfort, lowering performance standards, making everything democratic, eliminating accountability. In fact, psychological safety enables high performance by encouraging transparency and learning. In unsafe teams, people cover up mistakes to avoid blame. In safe teams, people surface mistakes early to protect the project. In unsafe teams, junior staff don't challenge flawed assumptions made by senior members. In safe teams, challenge is seen as a duty, not as a threat. In unsafe teams, people choose silence over honesty. In safe teams, honesty fuels continuous improvement. Psychological safety is therefore not soft. It's discipline. It's the backbone of excellence. In complex environments where outcomes are uncertain, cause and effect relationships are unclear, and decisions require constant adaptation, psychological safety becomes a structural necessity. 3 reasons stand out. Complexity requires distributed intelligence. Traditional top-down leadership models fail in complex projects. The problems are too interdependent. The pace too fast and information too fragmented. Teams need to behave like a network, not a hierarchy. And networks only work when information flows without fear. Early warning signs need a place to land. Most catastrophic project failure in engineering, financial, governance, or operational have early signals that went unreported. Why? Not because people didn't know, because they didn't feel safe enough to say something. Psychological safety is a risk control mechanism. It is how small problems stay small. Innovation depends on freedom to question. No innovation happens without the willingness to challenge the current state, propose alternatives, and experiment. Without psychological safety, teams follow the script even when the script is wrong. Leaders cannot mandate psychological safety. They create it through consistent behaviors. One of the most powerful actions a leader can take is acknowledge uncertainty, limits, or mistakes. Statements such as, "I might be missing something. What do you say? I made a wrong call last week, and here's what I've learned." What risk are we not talking about yet? These open the door to contribution. If you only reward correct answer, people will hide incomplete or uncertain insights. If you reward contribution, curiosity, and early escalation, people will speak up more often. Also, we need to create structured forums for risk and learning. Examples include lessons learned that are constructive, dedicated risk discovery discussions. Structure normalizes speaking up. The moment someone is punished for speaking up, psychological safety collapses. Leader must show publicly and consistently that raising issues is responsible behavior. I progress now with a real world example. Let's look at a scenario drawn from typical complex engineering project environments. A multi-year engineering program was approaching a major design review. Pressure was high. Senior leadership expected confirmation that the system was on track. A junior system engineer noticed that under specific test conditions, a subsystem was producing inconsistent data. It's not catastrophic, and it didn't always happen, but it was there. He mentioned it to a colleague who replied, "Don't bring this up now. We are too close to the review. Leadership won't like it. Just rerun the test and hope it stabilizes." At that moment, psychological safety was being tested, not just the subsystem. The engineer decided not to escalate. He's relatively new, eager to be seen as competent, and afraid of appearing alarmist. The design review took place. Stakeholders signed off. Months later, during a more advanced phase of integration testing, the anomaly reappeared. Only now, it's amplified by interactions with other subsystems. The fix requires later rework, new test cycles, and additional costs. Deadlines slipped. Leadership reacts by criticizing lack of visibility and poor communication, which further reduce trust and reinforce silence. The project enter a downward spiral from high pressure to less safety to fewer early warnings to more late failures. Same scenario, different team culture. The engineer raises the issue in the team's weekly risk discovery session. The lead engineer responds, "Good catch, let's understand it." Even if it's indeterminate ambiguity, this early is important. The team analyzes the signal. They find the under load interactions a sensor is hitting a really trigger threshold. It's fixable. Now, the design review is updated with transparent reporting. There is an anomaly. Here is the plan to address it. Here is the impact assessment. Leadership thanks the team for surfacing it. Stakeholders appreciate the honesty and the clear mitigation plan. The project remains on track. More importantly, the lesson spreads. We speak up early here. This is a psychological safety in action, not soft, not indulgent, but precise, timely, and performance driven. I would like to do some reflections about what I said, in the last 10 minutes or so. Psychological safety is a core operating condition for any team working in complexity, especially where the consequences of failure are serious. In many organizations, the root cause of systemic issues is not competence or resources, but the silence created by a fear-based environment. Psychological safety is deeply linked to humility, learning, and continuous improvement. It challenges the heroic model of leadership. The leader who knows everything, decides everything, and must appear infallible. That model collapses under complexity. The modern leader creates a space for others to think, challenge, and contribute. It's also important to reflect on how fragile psychological safety can be. It takes time to build, one interaction at a time, but it can collapse instantly if people see that honesty leads to punishment or embarrassment. Consistency from leadership is essential because teams watch what leaders do far more than what leaders say. Finally, psychological safety is relational, not abstract. It emerges from daily behavior, how leaders respond to bad news, how colleagues treat mistakes, how comfortable individuals feel saying, "I don't know," or "I need help." It lives in the small moment, the micro interaction that add up to trust. And let me conclude this episode, a very interesting episode. Psychological safety is not soft, optional, or theoretical. It is the invisible architecture that determines whether teams thrive under pressure or fracture under silence. In complex, high uncertainty environments, its value becomes even more pronounced. When people feel safe to speak up, challenge, learn, and admit uncertainty, organizations detect risk earlier, innovate faster, and make better decisions. Leaders create psychological safety through consistent, intentional behaviors, modeling fallibility, inviting challenge, rewarding transparency, and protecting those who raise difficult truths. These actions build an environment where information flows, learning accelerates, and teams perform at their best. If we want high-performing teams, we must first create the conditions where people feel safe enough to be fully engaged, intellectually, emotionally, and courageously. That's the real critical path. Thanks for listening to The Critical Path, project management and leadership in complex environments. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow or rate the show on Spotify and share it with colleagues who work where reliability matters most. See you on the next episode of The Critical Path.